Chris Spencer,
Okay.
you're on the podcast, Vector Accelerator, and you and I met each other a couple years ago, plus or minus a year, through a conversation when you were with Oracle. Are we allowed to say that? That you were with
What?
Oracle?
Yeah.
All right.
Why
So
not?
you were with Oracle. I don't know if you're like, they are dead to me. I shall not name their names.
No, sir.
Okay.
That's three decades of my life that I have no regrets because they
Oh my
were
gosh.
absolutely good to me, and vice versa.
Yeah. Okay.
So, yeah.
That's awesome. Well, now you are with the Honor Foundation in San Diego. So maybe just as that's like the teaser for this whole episode. But would you share your experience at Oracle a bit? 30, did you say 30 years?
30 years, 3 months, and probably 7 days or something to that effect.
I mean, that's unheard of.
Yeah. Yeah. My dad would be proud.
Totally. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
Like that's previous generations.
Right. Yeah. And it's not without what everybody I'm sure experiences in their lifetime, 30 years of anything. How many people can say that? And I'm certainly grateful to be able to have that luxury of saying that. The bumps and bruises that comes with it, but also the successes and of the life changing occurrences as a result of what I was afforded the opportunity to be a part of. The mid 90s, I was early 20s and trying to figure it out. Like many, you go through some things. You try this job, you're good at that, but you don't want to do this. So you try something different. I couldn't really put my finger on what I wanted to do. I tried the community college thing to get me a launch pad to figure out education and things like that. And I just didn't gravitate towards it. So at 21, enlisted as a result of a guy got out. I was collecting coins out of laundry machines. If anybody's ever experienced that, where you wear the polyester uniform and Maytag, and you go around with a converted truck that's got a safe in the back, and you go into the places that there's coin operated laundry machines where you get a key and a bag of quarters and you bring it to the truck. That was me. So he was my partner. He got out, Alameda, California. He got out. He was a dental tech, and he says, Army's great. I says, I believe it. So I went in.
That's it.
That's it. I mean, it was pretty easy because it sounded like all the things that I wanted to do. And I pretty much exhausted all the other things as far as where I was at that age, at that moment. So why not? And so went in, delayed entry, 63 Gulf, a mechanic. Figured back then, I says, well, let me do it and try to earn a trade skill. And then went through the training and learned how to do fuel and electrical work on vehicles and tracks and things like that. And went to Fort Hood, Texas, Korea, back to Fort Hood. 3 years, 9 months, 18 days is how long I was in. Saw the rotation, fast track to E5.
Okay.
Went in as an E4 3 times to re-enlist, to do something different. Didn't get the returns that I wanted, got promoted. And then a month later went back in three more times, 3 more choices, didn't get what I was asking. So I asked for a 90-day drop.
Okay.
Cause I think at that point I had felt I'd given what I had, all I had, and it wasn't reciprocated like many would say. So it was an emotional decision that ended up working out in my favor, because I ended up getting out, going back to Northern California, saw the big glass buildings of Oracle, associated the big glass buildings with success, and back then my priorities were make money, for family and things like that. And so 3 weeks later, took a temp job, keying in information from packets that were inter-officed into paper, right? And took that information from sales and keyed it into a spreadsheet. And that eventually would be what would evolve into the customer references.
Oh.
So when a deal would close, customer would offer to be, to give the specific information that why they closed the deal and those things, and speak with a customer, future customer. Rekeyed it into the Excel spreadsheet. Eventually was hired, and then from there, there was a bunch of lessons learned, curiosity, looking over the window the cube, and what are you doing? And they were taking apart computers, and I learned that, and building websites, and I learned that. Eventually landed in an operational function inside of sales, and doing IT work, and then building teams, global teams for supporting inside sales that eventually began now supporting one of the hiring onboarding programs for campus hires. And the initiative back in 2013 was the strategy of hiring early career folks from the top schools in the nation to bring them in the business development role, kind of to match the generation that was leaving the workforce, right? So if the company was going to sell into these accounts, these people are also, leaving the workforce. And so they're hiring younger mindsets from college. And so it matched. We became the support for the program. Eventually started to lead the program with a strong team of folks that knew the ins and outs of how to find the right talent, train the right way, and then build retention plans for the company.
Wow.
Ended up.
And I can hear how relevant that is for veteran transition. So keep going.
Well, yeah, yes, sir. So there's an integrated component on the perspective of what was happening was, you're bringing in a generation where they have the theoretical knowledge, book knowledge, skill sets that are ambitious, right? So you have all this tenacity and aptitude, and for many, what can be described as missing a little bit was the life lessons and experiences. And so what we started to do at that point, because I imagine we'll talk a little bit about it, Oracle stood up its veteran affiliated employee resource group in 2015, Veterans Day. And so there was a good idea to say, well, if attrition and retention is a focus, and some of these folks are thinking this kind of way, and the managers might be thinking that they could develop in other key areas, what are we going to do to help supplement that ability? Let's insert and integrate the veteran focused hiring strategy into that program. And then you have cross-pollination of benefit, right? So you have early career learning life lessons from a veteran who's learning transition from campus hires. Oh, it's a beautiful mix. And so, it kind of took hold, and it stuck in a lot of ways, and some programs evolved as a result of some of that, right? Others was just key leaders making great decisions on how they can improve their organizational morale and culture by integrating veteran and spouse hiring.
Were you able to, and you might not be able to speak to it off the cuff necessarily, but are there a set of patterns that you've seen for veterans in terms of enculturation and understanding corporate world? I'm using air quotes, corporate world.
Yes. And it might change every day that you ask me the same question, but the first thing is a perception. The main thing that we've witnessed and experienced is what they were told as they were getting ready to transition, assuming they were told anything. There's a lot of debate that goes back and forth is how supportive is the process of pre-transition to get you ready for transition, TAP and those other programs for the branches. Is what information are you being provided? How much sit down one-on-one conversations to tailor that information towards your particular needs is being done? Those types of things. So a lot of it was, you can do project management, you can program management, it's key things. And what we've communicated hopefully effectively to try to help emphasize that is to say, no, you don't have to do what you did. You got to think about what you want to do. And so that is a very tough thing. And, this is what Vector and THF is specializing in is that's a hard question to answer. That's common. The next thing is, and this is kind of this half jokes, but not, it's transitioning a service member or a family member transitioning. A lot of that stuff is perception is based off of inputs that comes from either social media, TV, or these other sources, which the irony in that is civilians look at military veteran families and things from TV and all those types of things. So it's an artificial input that kind of skews the perception to believe certain things a certain way. And we roll off of that. And it isn't until you have a live conversation with those that care about what you actually need to hear where it changes that. And that takes a little bit of peeling back layers and looking at self and things like that. So that's kind of the consistent thing is optimizing the perception based off of what you're being told or not being told and how you think you need to be ready.
So you're saying veterans often think about The Office, Michael Scott, Dunder Mifflin. They're thinking about Parks and Rec. It's that's what I'm entering into.
And the funny thing is, you know, not to make it about me, but the example is I look at my mind, I still think I'm 22.
Yeah. Yeah. Sure.
But B, I don't look at myself as a corporate guy,
Uh-huh.
right? Just because the nature of how my internal perspective is kind of guiding my thought process and, you know, the language that I use and kind of the interactions and the focal points that I'll kind of engage myself in. But yeah, it's an idea that's shaped off of what you believe on how you interpret those types of things. And I, you know, I don't want to go into tech because I don't want to sit in a cube. I don't want to code. I don't have development skills. And it's like, it's not really what it is. It can be, you know, but there's also other benefits to these types of things based off of what your desire is when you transition out. You know, you want certain things. Some of that is okay, right? But it's not all that. And so we have to talk about it.
Well, obviously this is a transition podcast. You just went through sizable transition. Talk about that. Like it said from Tuesday to Wednesday, you changed your email address at the very least.
Yeah. Yeah. I didn't, let me sit on that for a minute. You don't really, there are things that you want and you ask for and you long for, and you say, oh, it would be nice if, or I wish I could that, or, you know, and you're like, I'm not where I want to be. So I want to do something. And when it actually becomes a reality and it's staring at you in the face, it hits different, you know? So when that day came and that 30 years, 3 months of what have you came to an end, I had to sit and think about it because it was real, right? I mean, raised families on it, moved locations multiple times.
Yeah.
You know, it's not in any way directly related to a service and how your military experience goes, but it kind of is, right? You know, it's a thing, right? It's 30 years of something. That's life stages, that's family, that's kids growing up and leaving the house and all that type of thing. So all the roots of what I knew, right? And things that I had taken for granted and all those types of things gone.
Yeah.
At least up here it's gone.
Yeah.
And so you have to kind of reorientate to things and recalibrate how you think. But the next day I get the offer from the Honor Foundation. I'm not going to say that initial feeling was short-lived, but when you talk about alignment and you talk about the things that you've done in the past and how you didn't recognize how the value of what the interactions included over years, where if you could say every interaction is an interview, when I got that offer, that was the most amazing feeling in the recent past that I had ever probably been able to explain because of what it is and what it means and what this organization has grown to deliver repeatedly, world-class. You know, we talked about being introduced to you and I talking with Joe and, you know, Halty originally talking about how Vector is the extension of THF and being on the other side of that space and watching that evolve into a thing. All of those things kind of just made me dizzy with excitement.
Yeah, I had an experience. I started this thing called the U School, which is the curriculum inside Vector and THF in 13, 14 years ago. And I had already had a career for about 10 years. And I love the way you phrase it, because inside of me were like these sort of unexpressed hopes and dreams about who I was and what I wanted to do. But every time I looked out into the career space, I'm like, I don't know where it doesn't make sense. It's not like I love the law, so go be a lawyer. It's like, so anyways, I eventually one day met these two guys that I ended up starting U School with. And I was just sharing who I was and what I cared about. And one of the guys, I'll never forget, pulled out of his wallet these notes scribbled on a napkin, because these two guys had been talking about this idea. And just maybe a week before I met them, they wrote down, you know, we should find somebody who has these characteristics, qualities, experiences, etc. And he slid it across the table at a Starbucks. And he's like, I think we've been looking for you. And I was like, so, and you're having a kind of a similar experience with THF. Like, how could this be, you know, you couldn't have been better matched, better set up for all these experiences. And I just think for people who are listening, who sometimes wonder, you know, does anybody care? Does anybody see me? how do I go from here to there? Because where I'm here is not really it, but I don't know where there is. Like, I just hope and pray for you to have that experience, everybody to have that experience, to find the kind of the tractor beams being pulled into. It all makes sense now. The different experiences you've had, the different perspectives that you've gained, like that's in a nutshell, I think what we would love to package up as a gift through Vector for experience, for people to experience. Like, there is, who you are is not a mistake. It's how you're wired, and there's great value in that, and you have value to add, and then the ultimate expression of that in a career path to get paid to do what you are, which I love the definition of kind of the idea of vocation, like do what you are. That's the ultimate goal. Figure out who you are and then go do it.
Yeah. Yes. All of that. And congratulations on that moment, because that's a memorable moment. I mean, that's comparative to anything in your life, to where if you say, if you had 1 minute to share some most significant components of your life, those moments are going to be the things that in your own virtual napkin are going to be slid across the table as like, this experience, that event, that occurrence was the most impactful in my trajectory that got me from where I was thinking, asking the questions, why, who, anybody, hello, Bueller, right?
Right.
And then you get it. And it's like, yes. Yeah. Patience, faith, commitment, effort.
Showing up.
I mean, it's, when you look at it, and this might take it to be overly philosophical, but I think that's where you and I have connected before, is you really can't get that deep, too deep. Yeah. You know, we often look at things in such a way that we put an end state on it. I want this and I want that. Yeah. Right. And this is how I'm going to do it. This is the plan I'm building. Right. And the military has a good way of experiencing or establishing the experience to know that you have contingencies, right? You can say your primary objective is this, but what happens if it fails? Yeah. That's another way of saying that it's not always going to go the way you think, right? A plan is just a plan, right? So if you understand what that is, and you have the ability to kind of dissect what that could mean for you, is to say, well, I know where I want to go. I have an initial trajectory planned out or mapped out, but I know that the whole thing is going to be squiggly line. It's never going to be this direct thing. Right. And to remember that that's the most enjoyable component of finding it, because you don't know how long it's going to take. Yeah, for me, it took, if I looked at leapfrogging from the experiences, one is to get inside the company 3 weeks after I get out of the military, young family, no skills no skills in my mind. I didn't have the degree, which everybody was talking about, but I got into the, number one enterprise software company in the world back in the mid 90s in Silicon Valley, in the glass building. I got in. And I got in because I asked my mom to teach me how to type. Yeah. Who would have said, for me to get to that thing, I need to go ask mom for something. Right. Right. Yeah. So that, plus an increment of saying, well, I'm going to do the right thing the right way because of my heart. I didn't say that I wanted to do this, that, or the other thing. What was in front of me is I was asked to do a job and do it to my best ability. And I did it with the most sincerity that I could forge up. It got me to be recognized for something else, that I was creating an opportunity. And I didn't understand what it meant, but later on that would prove itself to be selected to lead a team that's going to provide now support for a C-level initiative for the company that eventually was over a decade long. Right. And the team that was surrounded by me were those that were committed for the right reasons, the right way, for the same things that we were talking about. So finding those individuals that you build yourself around, that circle, that board, and all those types of things, surrounded by exceptional talent to deliver world-class things for early career hires that are looking for that thing that we're talking about. Yep. Somewhat of a ramble, but think about it. 1,500 people a year about coming from college into an organization that's the big machine of a corporation, not knowing what exactly the career is going to provide for them, the most impressionable moment of their next life stage as a young adult. And you get to sit in that space and offer them a seamless transition from that life to this life, and probably the most overwhelming moment of their life. That's another napkin. Yeah, totally. For them. Yeah. Right. For us, we don't realize it. We're just doing the things we're supposed to be doing. You see where I'm? Yep. So totally. Yeah. So all of that leads into this thing that, that builds who you are more substantially in such a way where an opportunity comes up at my life stage to say, after that duration of 3 decades of X, I moved my first transition out of that 3-decade experience is to the next thing that is the most exceptional component of my current decision making.
Yeah.
To have the opportunity to say yes to
So director of people is your
director of people.
What does that mean?
So it's people and engagement. It's the way that I interpret it is community, having conversation with those that have a desire to do something. They're going from X to Y, right? And so we have special operations focus, and carrying the brand and everything that you do in the community. In this case, San Diego and Los Angeles is my scope.
Okay.
Every time I walk out of the window, or I'm walking out of the window, every time I walk out of the door, it's a brand representation of what the Honor Foundation is to represent for those that are making a decision on choosing THF to get them through the next life stage, the most significant decision that they're going to make in the transition out of special operations. That means that you're talking to those who are currently serving with their families in some capacity. It means you're talking to the community around here to get exposed and bring awareness to THF's mission. That means responsibility of relationship building within companies, corporations, businesses, to create opportunities for awareness for them to understand that if they have a need, there's a pipeline of individuals that can serve that need in the most exceptional way, things like that. Yeah. And the events that support these things is to be involved in the career readiness, right? It's the resume reviews. It's bringing in coaches that, have the aligned perspective on how they're going to support getting them ready with mock interviews, treks, taking a group of individuals that are in the cohort, fellows come through the program, going to companies and sitting with them for, a short amount of time to get the most impactful experience possible to expose them now to the things we talked about earlier. It's like, what do you want to do? I don't know. Or I kind of know. I was told I can do this and I should do that. Yeah. Well, let's expose you to all those types of things that you haven't yet been tapped into understanding. Right. And that's, let's change your perspective. May not change your mind. That's up to you. But at least now you have a more diverse perspective and your lens widens on what your potential includes. Yeah. Answer the question. What do you want to do when you grow up?
Yep. And you're helping create the conditions for them to go through the process to have the right answer to that question. And not only the answer, but then also the ability to activate that, step into it.
Yeah. Yes. Short answer. And I'm so green to it that I'm probably oversimplifying it because of all of the fantastic and amazing talent inside the Honor Foundation, the coaches, the staff, faculty, all of the dynamics that you are more familiar with how long you've been involved in the organization's efforts than I. But yeah, I don't think there's any boundaries or limits on what it is that you're trying to do. It's just to kind of you were told some things. Let's kind of just peel those back a little bit, give you the ability to allow yourself permission to absorb a different lens, perspective, the vision.
This is a total kind of setup question, hopefully in a good way. If I'm listening, who should reach out to you? Who are the kinds of they think about these things, they have these problems. What are those people like?
Yeah. So this is where I'm conflicted. So my initial response, everybody should reach out to me because that to me, and I'll explain what that means. It's probably not the right answer, and probably people around me.
Yeah, be careful because I think my mom listens to this, so she might call.
Right? Yeah, we have a conversation. There's wisdom in what your mom would probably tell me. And hey, well, you think about this. I said I didn't. Thank you so much. So that's the self-gratifying thing, and I know it's half jokes, but the idea is who. You got service members that are getting ready to transition. You have military families that are along with the service members that are getting ready to transition. Those folks should reach out. And if you're in this area, you don't know who to contact, I would be the one to get you connected. If it's not me in this area here, it's you don't know where else to go, start there and we'll get you the right person, the right network. Organizations that are focused on improving their work environments, they're adding to the culture, bringing value to what they're trying to achieve, considering hiring the right talent that they hadn't yet thought about, reach out, because we can have a conversation. My intention is not to change your mind or persuade you to do anything different. I just want to give you information, but tailor the information in such a way where it's relevant to your particular needs as a decision maker inside your organization, where you have a personal vision of what you think you want to change and how you can influence something different inside your organization, because you were probably hired to add value in such a way too, that maybe the powers that be inside that company isn't directly telling you how to do it. You have a thing, you want to learn more about how you can evolve that thing into another thing and grow it. Well, we can help with that. We can help provide information in a way that gives you a broader perspective to carry a vision from an idea to reality with appropriate outcomes that, make it more efficient, add to your culture, protect the bottom line and grow.
What about, this is like a super simple question, people who might be qualified to be coaches or want to look into being a coach or offering mock interview help? Like, is that you, or are you just kind of the guy that can help dial them into the right place?
Yeah, I can always help to dial them in the right place. And anybody that's interested in being a part of the Honor Foundation, coach, faculty, even if you're sniffing around looking for a job and those types of things. And it's never too early to kind of plant seeds and things like that. But I think to start with is me, and then we get you connected. There's an internal process that it talks about, well, start here, get connected over here. There's a conversation, and then there's a little bit more depth in those conversations for those that are solely responsible for that particular area, but to make it simple. Yeah. If you're a coach, or if somebody feels that you want to become a coach or volunteer. So I will give it a subset on the volunteering through your organization is where you probably want to channel that through.
Great point.
Right.
Yep.
Because although I'll use my experience as an example. So I personally wanted to get involved in X organization. I reach out to X organization, but because I'm a part of the company, I'm there on one of two things. One, it's personal. Two, it's professional. Yeah. If it's personal, something you want to get involved in, then reach out. That's great. We'll do that all day. If you want to, and preferably if you want to reach out on behalf of your organization, speak to the channels that are aligned to that particular activity and volunteering and those types of things inside your organization. And we'll have a much broader strategic and engaging conversation on how we can get you and others in your organization to represent the brand. Because that's important, right? I think a lot of organizations and companies want to have, present themselves as contributing and giving back to the community, right?
Yeah. Well, just as long as you're not a weirdo. So if you're listening and you're kind of like, just don't call Chris. Everyone else, call him, email him. We'll make sure your contact info is in the show notes. Chris, I think, honestly, like I told you before we started recording, I'm just shocked in a good way that you got this role, and that you get to bring those experiences of those 30 years plus 3.5 years in service and express that through the Honor Foundation. And I know you're such a fan of Vector Accelerator and what this can provide. So I feel like this is just going to be like, I feel like a little kid when I'm like, hey, it's a free Saturday. Like, what should we do? Let's go play. And it's going to be an epic day. So thanks for jumping in. I'm just thrilled to see what happens and what we could do together.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Scott. And yes, all that. And so if I could just slide in there for anybody listening and has a question on what the company might be looking to do. The Honor Foundation has a very specific pipeline for talent and opportunity to help with your business. Vector is a great extension, because if your company is looking for something that's to say, well, we need to broaden the value and the ROI of how we're going to bring talent in. And although it's specific for this particular area on what the special operations community can provide. Yeah. And there are those roles. Vector broadens that. It was beneficial for when I was in that seat to have the ability to talk about now an extended opportunity to bring more value, because it does now deepen inside the space of the type of talent that we can bring in with results. It's results oriented. There was already proven data that supports the efficiency and effectiveness of what Vector was providing as a result of being under THF and that type of thing. So it's a great opportunity to dig into with options.
Yeah.
And that's, I think, a necessary and critical conversation that needs to be had in every company. And that's not a biased perspective. That's reality.
Yeah. 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 It's true. Well, you heard it here. Thanks for being on the show, Chris. We'll see you soon.
Thanks, Scott.